I can't find a seconder usually when I propose this, but I don't care. I don't need a seconder. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this, pick a number, get online, and kiss my ass.
First things first, Alabama State Bar Rules of Professional Conduct Rule 7.2e requires the following language in all attorney communications. No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers. I'm Harry Still, backwoods Southern lawyer. My partner in crime, Paul Ripp, is here from the Ripp Report. Sound off, Paul.
I'm here, ready to go.
And Rains Russian is joining us from Houston, Texas. What's your title, Rains? We're gonna call you reporter in exile.
I just Houston section chief.
Section chief. There we go.
Section chief. Was this 24?
This is podcast 24, believe it or not. No lawsuits, no nothing so far.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. So first of all, one of the big national issues that's going on right now of public concern is the coronavirus. And while he is not an epidemiologist, Rains, you familiar with that autopsy show that was real popular on HBO, that Dr. Baldwin?
Oh, of course.
So we got a video we're going to run of him. It's on Fox and Friends. But anyway, he's a contributor there. And while he's not an epidemiologist, he's a face that we know and someone that we all seem to trust collectively for some reason because of his celebrity. So let's listen to him and we'll come back and give you some comment.
Here in the United States, so far, 60 known cases, 0 deaths. That is good news. The president predicted a swift end and said America is at a very low risk. But you see some parallels between this and, worst case scenario, the Spanish flu, which happened 100 years ago.
Yeah, I think that it's much too early to be concerned about the Spanish flu, which had millions of deaths around the world after World War II. This doesn't compare to that as now. But the problem here is that with the coronavirus, people can be sick and be contagious and have the bug in them and feel healthy. So we don't know yet.
Infecting people.
While they're infecting people, we haven't done enough studies on people. Less than 1,000 people have been studied in the United States so far, have been tested for it. We don't know how many people there are walking around now who are contagious and don't know that they're sick.
Right.
So that's why all this research has to be done at CDC. They're looking at that right now, but we just don't know, and it could be more serious than we think it is, or less serious.
Are you worried about it, Dr. Biden?
I'm worried about it, yes.
Why?
Because it's a new virus that's come into the community. We have no antibodies against it, no experience with it before. With the flu, we have had experience. People have partial immunities. With the flu, you get 1 death per 100,000 people who get sick. With this one, so far, in the small numbers, 30 deaths per 100,000. So it could be serious. We have to do the biology and the science, and one of the problems with it, people coming across the border or coming on airplanes, they may look perfectly healthy. We don't know if they have the virus or not. In Europe, they found when they do more screening, they find people who look perfectly healthy, but they're transmitting the virus. And that's the problem right now that CDC and all are working on. Right.
So, Rains, Emory University has been working on a vaccine that looks promising. It was actually meant for the Venezuelan equine encephalitis virus, which people around here get it. So they're saying they're ready for trials in March or so, which will be way too late. Paul and I were talking about the economic catastrophe that this thing poses. What's the Dow down? 1,000 points?
No.
1,200.
1,200?
Yeah, we're wavering about 700 left. How much?
So ships are piling up at the ports in China, and manufacturers here stateside are worried about their supply chain.
Yeah, but the other thing is the tourist industry. Think of the millions of tourists that are in limbo, be it by ship or air. The one common denominator of the coronavirus is airplanes. Okay, that's the one thing they hadn't stopped yet. But now you got Japan that's going to quarantine all the schools for a month. And myself, I know I was leaving on the 17th of March to go to Japan and then to Vietnam and then to Thailand. And now they have, alerts and so on. But the problem is not probably getting there. The problem is probably coming back.
Getting your ass quarantined
Right,
for
and quarantine. But
in Idaho or wherever the hell this.
But think of all the people that, you make your deposits for these trips 30 days, 60 days, 90 days out, some people a year out. Okay, and now the airlines are balking at, like in my case, I told them, look, I don't even want the money back. All I want to do is just reschedule after the virus. And they said, well, no. You're going to lose your money if you don't go, and so on and so forth. Well, we're only a few days away from this maybe being declared a pandemic. If that happens, then I don't see where the credit card companies and the airlines are going to really have their butt in a crack as to how they're going to come out of it. But this could be a real economic catastrophe for tourism around the world.
And also, if anybody wants to look further into this, there was a pretty good story last night on Channel 5 News, WKRG out of Mobile, about what the Port of Mobile is doing to ensure that, that the coronavirus doesn't enter our port. Well, I don't know how in the hell they're going to do that, but they think they can.
They had a, which I thought was real interesting, kind of bizarre looking. They had a soccer tournament in Europe, 55,000 person stadium, and almost no one showed up in the entire stadium. The only people there were the players. That's the first time I'd ever seen it. It was kind of surreal looking.
Well, there's one thing that if anybody's looking for the surgical the Michael Jackson face mask that you see all the Asians wearing or walking around the airport in, there are none in Baldwin County. CVS, Walmart, nobody has anymore.
That's
there's been a run on the N95 masks. That's
N95,
same here in Texas. I've got plenty because I'm in school to be a paramedic, and I'm supposed to have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And but it's I think to be honest, I'm with you guys. Is that the real disaster that's looming is the economic one. This is we live in the first world. A flu epidemic isn't going to wipe us out, but we are looking at some serious economic issues. Tourism alone is billions of dollars, and people are just going to get scared and stop flying and stop going on vacation.
Hey, dude,
people are going to stop traveling.
Yeah.
What happens when we can't get Gorilla Glass for our iPhones?
Look, I'm here to tell you right now, people are, I love how the current administration in Washington is saying, oh, no big, it's going to blow over. No, it's not.
What else would they say?
China is shut down, and China is the economic powerhouse of the world. And they are shut down.
Manufacturing-wise, I'd agree.
Manufacturing-wise, they're going to lose a couple 100,000 people in the next 6 weeks. And they've shut their entire country down. There's almost a full, what did my friend Chris tell me the other day? Somewhere in the neighborhood of there's like 1/16 of the entire population of the planet is in quarantine right now.
That is
because they're in China and they're shut down. And if you don't think that that's going to have far-reaching economic implications, just wait until you can't go and get paper towels at Walmart.
Right, and that's
because
why
they're just not there.
That's why you're seeing the market react the way it is.
And the market's tanking. This is going to be bigger than 2008. This is going to plunge us into a recession.
I think so.
Well, let's just talk about that real quick. Petroleum industry, right? There aren't going to be as many ships running around the world. There aren't going to be as many planes flying everywhere. There aren't going to be as many people traveling to big gatherings. Like Paul was saying, ain't nobody going to a damn soccer match in the next 6 months. Or thank God football's in the spring. I mean, in the fall. But yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it shaking out well at all, especially economically.
And you know what I think, Raines? I think that on the tourist end of it and the air flight and the effects of it, I think we're not going to be told exactly what's going on right away. because it's going to be so damn scary to them. They're not going to have a handle on it. And
I would agree. If you look back at what happened to the tourist industry after 9/11, people stopped flying for like 6 months.
Done.
And it absolutely devastated the travel industry.
Yeah.
I mean, try to find me a travel agency that was still in business in 2002.
I flew to Salt Lake City September 20th, 2001. I mean, I was on one of the first flights when things got going again.
But the airplane thing is the common denominator. And so, you see them quarantine here, quarantine there. They all know that the airplane's the most dangerous part. So that's what I'm looking for next is when they say, okay, we're going to shut down these air routes.
Well, that and it's like Dr. Bodden said, the problem is people appear to be asymptomatic for 2 weeks.
Right.
So the hell they don't look sick. They don't have a fever. Mm-hmm. They're walking around giving it to everybody. And then, lo and boom, they've got it. And so does everybody else they came in contact with.
And my major concern was coming back, because coming back is where you would really get nailed. Now, if they held me up for 3 weeks in Asia and I was able to stay on the beach, that'd be okay. But if I had to be locked up with my soulmate for 14 days, I'm telling you, somebody'd be charged with murder.
There wouldn't be a soulmate anymore, would it?
No, man.
That's worse than being trapped in the elevator with range for 8 hours.
I'm going to tell you something else. You be trapped in an elevator with me, you come out enlightened.
I bet.
These people around here pay for that.
Is it like Shallow Hal when he got in the elevator with the self-help guru? I'd walk off with a totally different perspective on life.
Your hands,
Tony Robbins.
His hands are so big. Tony Robbins. I'm not afraid of anything, really. I'm darn sure not scared of catching a corona flu. I'm really not, because I'm, having a background in hospitality, I'm used to simple things that I do every day that keep me from catching the flu. I've had the flu once in the last 20 years, and it's because I constantly wash my hands and I constantly wipe down surfaces, and I'm mindful of things like cross contamination. I told my wife last night, I said, I'm more scared of getting sick from raw chicken than I am from getting sick from this flu. I said,
because you're not over 70 or under 8. Those are the people that it takes out.
The thing is that I'm not worried about the flu. What I'm worried about is the dickhead down the street who's got a safe full of AR-15 bills, just waiting for some quarantine thing to happen in the city so he can go nuts.
Yeah.
Or people going to Walmart and buying everything, and scare buying like before a hurricane, people would go and clear out a grocery store.
And I don't think people in other parts of the country are as used to that as we are around here. I mean, people are prepared around here for days or whatever.
What's going to happen when you clear out the grocery store and 2 weeks later the grocery store hadn't filled back up again?
Right.
That's what I'm worried about.
That's when my little garden in the backyard becomes a really stellar idea. Right?
You ought to come check my garden out in my backyard. If you like clover and oranges, you'd be in hog heaven. It's about knee high back there.
That's when you start shooting those deer you're feeding.
Paul he's obsessed with my deer. I got 10 or 12 deer, a herd of little deer that we feed in the backyard.
I think they're gorgeous.
They are pretty, and that's one of the great things about living in Baldwin County is we still have a little bit of that in some pockets. Mm-hmm. So I want to switch gears and talk about liberty again. And Raines, I'm glad you're here for this one. One of the concept of liberty under the Constitution and how it is the ultimate protection for individuals. Liberty is the right to exercise the rights enumerated by the Constitution or available under natural law. The Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment declares that no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. I think that liberty also means the last time we talked about liberty and that concept being expanded to the control of your own labor markets. And this time I want to talk about it meaning the control of your own data. So when I gave the sheriff of Baldwin County my name, address, date of birth, and social security number, I did so that he could do a background check on me. I applied for a concealed carry permit, and I expected that information would be used to do a background check on me, and it would be maintained in the database in case I lost my permit so that I could come get another one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Under House Bill 308, which I thought was real cute, it's currently being proposed in the legislature. The information collected by the sheriffs of all counties will be sent to one central repository for data repository to create the ARROW system, AROW. So let me tell you a little bit about what's going on social media. So we have 3 bills in the legislature right now. House Bill 39 and House Bill 47 are both supported by the NRA. They would take the issuance of the permit away from the local, from the individual 67 sheriffs in the county, and you would make application online to ALEA. ALEA would issue your permit, and it could be and I think under one of these bills, it's a lifetime permit. I think it's House Bill 39 that makes it lifetime. So what does that do? It diverts the revenue from the local sheriff's departments to ALEA. It creates this ARROW system. And so the sheriff gets on Facebook, and this is what he stated. As most of you are aware, there are many bills that have been introduced in the Alabama legislature regarding concealed carry permits and the way they are handled. The first bill is HB 39. This piece of legislation comes up next week in committee, and if passed, it would transfer the issuance of concealed carry permits away from the sheriffs to the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency in Montgomery. It would also remove the ability of the local sheriffs to revoke or deny any permits based upon arrest, mental health, or other disqualifier. Well, hell, that'll get done by ALEA. They would, and that's not in his post, that's my aside. This would now be the responsibility of the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. It would also transfer 60% of the fee that is currently collected by the sheriffs to Montgomery. That is why we want the ability to issue permits so that we can get the revenue. It would also require the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency to set up a computer system to handle this process at a cost of well over $1 million. This bill comes up in committee next week. I know and respect this is a sensitive issue. I've already answered some questions regarding this bill. I would like the opportunity to address any questions you may have. So, certain people start posting, and here's what I say about it. Raines, I believe since you can't make people register their guns, this is the next best thing. I don't like it, and neither does the NRA. I actually called them. They said House Bill 308 is a kill bill, that everyone that belongs to the NRA should contact their legislator and the governor and tell them to kill this damn thing. I believe tyranny begins in such ways. I think all of the sponsors of this bill can kiss their political careers goodbye because they are Republicans in name only. The next stop is red flag laws.
Right.
And so, Raines, you know how you were saying, what did you call those M39 masks?
N95.
M95s for the coronavirus. So you can't get any of those. And they're going to, so just imagine this. They're going to create a database so that when a police officer pulls you over and he runs your tag through NCIC, looking to see if you have any warrants or to see if you're a real dangerous person or whatever, he's also going to run you through this ARROW system for the officer's safety, okay? So that he knows whether or not you have a concealed carry permit before he walks up to your car. Or if they're serving a warrant on you, and they run you through ARROW and they see you have a concealed carry permit, well, what do you think is prudent there? Should they come to your house to arrest you, or should they send the SWAT team since they know you have a weapon?
Yeah, but what else shows up? Everything. Everything you submitted that they have on record now is available to him.
So, Raines, I wish you could see me. Everybody's wondering why I have this goofy-looking ascot thing around my neck, but it's actually to protect me from the sheriff's department and the ARROW system and also the coronavirus. And we're going to figure out how to, this thing's actually made out of, it's for fishing so that you pull it up around your ears and your face or whatever. It's a neck gaiter. But you know, I think it serves a dual purpose. Now, let me say this:
I wouldn't wear it when I got pulled over.
If the state of Alabama passes House Bill 308, I'm going to surrender my concealed carry permit, and I'm going to dare them to put my information into some kind of damn database.
Uh-oh.
Well, that's very revolutionary.
Well, I'm going to sue the hell out of the state of Alabama and the sheriff for taking my information that I gave him for one purpose and then them using it for a completely separate purpose.
Yeah, and you don't know which other way it may be used too. They legitimize using it in another way later on.
So I intend to open carry if this thing passes, and I don't know what we're going to do about carry. You know, your weapon is considered concealed in your vehicle. The only exception is if you're going to and from the range. I guess you get pulled over and say, "Hey, where are you heading, partner?" "To the range, officer. That's why I have my firearm with me. And I don't have a permit." All right. So Nick, along the same line of guns, and I can't get any outrage out of my co-host like I expected. A bunch of pansy, pinko, gun. Hey, Raines, do you think that it's a good idea for them to okay, so let's take it one step further. They take this information and they integrate it into a GIS database. Now you have a map of all the gun owners. So when the sheriffs all met up in Montgomery this week and they were standing on the state capitol steps, they had this big board, and it was larger than the green screen behind us, and it had the photographs of these fallen police officers from 2019. And they're standing behind these fallen police officers, and they're saying, "We can't keep the people safe. We need to know who all the gun owners are, right, to keep our officers safe." Well, how many of those police officers that they were standing behind their picture of were killed by somebody who is law-abiding, who went to the trouble to go get a concealed weapon permit?
Right.
These aren't the kind of people that shoot cops. It's the people that disregard the law.
That'd be real interesting.
So this is a first step to some really bad Big Brother stuff. It's almost as stupid as pulling somebody over for them to, if they appear to be texting and driving, or someone in the back seat appears not to have their seatbelt on, or they appear to be vaping or smoking with someone who appears to be under 14 years of age in the car. You know, based on your wife's height, you may get pulled over every time you light up with your wife in the passenger seat, Raines.
Well, you know, I'll put it to you very, very simply. You know, people that feel the need to protect themselves and everything else are quick to pull out the Second Amendment and say, "Well, we've got a right to bear arms," and when the government takes away all your guns, then you know, what are you going to do when the government does something you doesn't like? Well, these are also the same people that say the government never does anything wrong. And the way I look at it is, you know, if you want to pay the freight to have a concealed carry permit and be one of those people, which I stand by this to this day, who just fetishize an absolutely wet dream about pulling up and stopping a mass shooting of some sort, buddy, that's the price of that particular right. If you can't cherry pick the Constitution for what you want to fight for, you can't say, "Well, I'm for this and again that," but you can't cherry pick it. You're either for freedom and liberty or you're for state regulation, and you can't say, "Well, I'm for one and not for the other." It's kind of an all-in thing. You know, the price of liberty is big. And what did Thomas Jefferson say? Those that would sacrifice a little freedom in exchange for a little security, you know, should get neither and don't deserve either one.
Look at the cameras.
And, you know, and that's just how it goes. I'm not for, you know, anybody collecting my data of any kind without my consent.
So, Raines,
I mean,
you missed our story last week. The Bay Minette Police Department got a $40,000 grant. Guess what they're going to do with it?
Oh, I guarantee you they're buying machine guns with it.
For every now we already have a SWAT team, and the sheriff's department's in Bay Minette too, and they have a SWAT team or special response team or whatever you want to call it. And so this is the one time I agree with you. If there's if there's a bank robbery with a bunch of hostages or whatever, the individual policeman, there will be ARs all over that damn parking lot time the cavalry gets there. He can just borrow one from somebody. But the idea that in a small southern town where we haven't had a damn murder in 5 years, there's hardly any violent crime, and this idea that the police are outgunned and outmatched, and this is one of the most important things that we can spend money on in our town, is a bunch of bullshit.
And that population of what?
8,900.
8,900 people.
Well, it's probably 8,500 since Wheels took office. Hemorrhaging, and my ass is out there just as quick as I can get my house on the market.
Here we go.
Well, you get up, you got somebody, some gun manufacturer or some pawn shop owner somewhere that says, hey, you put a couple first-class tickets to Hawaii in my back pocket, and all of a sudden we'll get you a $40,000 machine gun contract, and I'll sell you $20,000 worth of ARs, and you pocket the rest.
So, Paul, since the end of the active war on terror, I say active, where we had 10,000 people in country, whatever. So we ramped up production, and then there's nobody to sell all these weapons to, except law enforcement. So let me tell you this: the North Baldwin Chamber of Commerce had their annual meeting Tuesday night. Guess what they started giving out instead of the Man of the Year award every year?
What's that?
The First Responder of the Year award.
First responder?
Why not Teacher of the Year award or any number of other professions that deserve our admiration and respect? When is this hero worship of law enforcement where's the end of it, is what I want to know, because I don't see them any differently than any other public employee. I'm sorry.
Sheriff Mack now has like 319 employees. That's more than the city of Fairhope.
Under his own merit system. Remember that. All these things that have come to fruition for the sheriff's department since Hoss Mack's been in there.
Investigate themselves.
All right, so we're going to watch another video. You ready to go with that? There was a mass shooting in Milwaukee at the Coors plant, and I think that's what this is about. So let's watch it. We'll come back and give you some comment.
Good evening to our viewers in the West. We are going to begin with breaking news. Another mass shooting. A gunman went on a rampage in Milwaukee this afternoon. Multiple people are dead, including the shooter. It happened at the Molson Coors complex where Miller beer is brewed. As the gunfire rang out, workers were told to shelter in place as police swarmed the scene. Dean Reynolds leads off our coverage tonight from Milwaukee.
Police responded to calls of a shooting at the Molson Coors compound this afternoon. A total of 6 people who worked there are dead, including the shooter who took his own life. Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett.
This is a tragic day for our state. 5 families, 6 families actually, are grieving and will be grieving because of this horrific act of this individual.
As officers donned tactical gear, employees of the brewery were warned via email to find a safe place to hide. At least one woman texted her husband that she was locked inside a room with co-workers. Emergency responders described the scene to dispatchers.
I just overheard on the radio 7 victims.
Neighboring schools were locked down. This bus driver says students were in the process of dismissal when it all began.
Well, they're not going to let them out until this is over with, so that could be a long time.
Ryan Hull's son let him know what was happening.
And he had called me and told me that, they were all locked down. They can't even leave the classrooms.
Hours later, the two were reunited.
All of us were just kind of in shock because we didn't know what was going on.
Dean Reynolds, CBS News, Milwaukee.
All right, so we now know that it was a 51-year-old African-American gentleman who had a grudge with a coworker. Is that your understanding, Raines?
Yep.
Milwaukee? And we don't know if he did it with a handgun or a long gun or a bazooka or a hammer.
I think it was a handgun.
Was it a handgun? I never heard.
Yeah.
All right, so another senseless tragedy. What do you do? Raines wants to regulate the sale of bullets, don't you? Are you?
No, I want to. No, I'm one of the. I'm a dram shop guy. I believe that the
person that
anybody
sold
who
it
sells a firearm ought to be accountable for what they do. I live under that as a bartender. Why can't gun manufacturers do that?
Because you got a terrible lobby, son. The bartenders need to unite. All right.
Yeah, well, we've been through that. That's a state issue, but I'm going to tell you right now, and all the law enforcement people I've ever met, and I'll just reinforce my whole wet dream theory, the top 10 things a law enforcement officer has never, ever said in their entire career, number one or number two has got to be, gee, I'm really glad a civilian with a concealed carry permit and a bunch of guns showed up to help me solve this problem. So just keep that in mind.
No, Raines, it's when there's a problem and the damn cops show up 3 hours later or 30 days later and draw a chalk line around your ass.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, because there's so many murders and crimes and things that have been prevented in this country because somebody had a gun at the right place.
Because somebody might have had. Because somebody might have had a gun.
Oh crap! It's not a diversion. It's about as effective a diversion to that sort of thing as the death penalty. Whatever. It's all fantasy crap.
Oh hell! I don't think we fry enough people. We need to break out Yellow Mama again, get her out of storage, and start frying people with electricity again.
Yeah, because that's proved to be a fantastic deterrent to major crimes all around the world.
It absolutely is. Go see how many drug dealers there are. Where do they kill drug dealers? The Philippines.
Philippines.
Yeah, they hang those bastards. There ain't no drug dealers in the Philippines.
Yeah, that's a great affront.
So I want to talk about what's going on. We have another bill coming up in the Alabama legislature, Senate Bill 52, related to municipal corporations, ordinances, issuance of summons and complaints. Okay, so now in Alabama, when you are arrested, let's say it's public intox, okay? Well, hell, that's a bad example because they might want to get you off the streets. Noise ordinance violations. You're familiar with those, Raines? I'm sure you've had a few. So when they show up to a noise complaint, they write you a ticket, a citation, and that citation is also a summons to court, right? So, here's what this bill would do. It would amend Section 1145 9.1 of the Code of Alabama 1975 to provide that a municipality may authorize a law enforcement officer to issue a summons and complaint in lieu of custodial arrest for certain criminal offenses, and in connection therewith would have as its purpose or effect the requirement of a new or increased expenditure of local. Anyway, they can't pass anything that creates an expenditure of, in addition to an expenditure of local funds under Amendment 621, which is, if you're a lawyer in Alabama, there are almost 1,000 constitutional amendments that you have to keep in mind. So anyway, and hopefully I expect to have one of my criminal attorney friends from Birmingham on here next time to talk about which misdemeanors. Obviously, domestic violence, third, you would still be taken to jail because if you're arrested for that, there's a 24-hour hold. I can imagine some other scenarios where we would want you to go to jail and have to bond out. But the only thing I'll say about this is the bail bonds industry is against it, the lawyers are against it, and law enforcement's against it. So it's probably a damn good idea.
Yep. That's what a shocker. The people that stand to make money off incarceration are against the progressive bill that would allow law enforcement officers to say, you know what, I'm just going to write this person a ticket instead of having to put bracelets on them and haul them down the county.
So Raines, this is another. A lot of people see this as a slippery slope into the courts allowing people to sign their own recognizance bonds, even on felonies. And that's certainly something that we don't
flat
want.
of places y'all are, there seem to be a lot of damn slippery slopes in Alabama. Anything progressive.
Hey, it's a slippery slope.
I'm climbing a grease pole, dude. Trust me.
Let me tell you, Raines, it's a slippery slope from Montgomery going north or south.
Exactly.
All right, so somewhere up here behind us, we have a picture of me and Paul from when we were up in Montgomery the other day. And while Paul was concerning himself with medical marijuana, I went over to the local government committee, met that same day, and I can tell you, not one legislator from Baldwin County thinks that you, the people, are a threat, because it's my understanding that the people of Baldwin County want Baldwin County Sewer Service regulated. There is no legislation afoot to do any of that. So Richard, you and your folks down at Glen Lakes and some of these other large subdivisions that are dependent on Baldwin County Sewer Service, you need to let them know that they should care. And someone should be drafting some legislation. And I'm not saying Baldwin County Sewer Service shouldn't be, and I think they have to be a part of the solution. They have to come to the table, and we have to come up with something that makes sense. But as of right now, there is no.
And this is an issue everybody's talking about. Has been for 6 months, 8 months. We go into a legislative session, and there's not one single piece of legislation from our leaders that regulates the sewer.
All
not
right.
one.
So let's switch gears.
All right.
Let's talk about. I'll do this one, and this was in last
the lanyard.
Beer me.
Okay, well, let me say first before you get into that.
Yeah.
Everybody get their lanyard. This is the Road to Super Tuesday, their new lanyard. It's very informative about Super Tuesday. Be sure and pick one up. Go ahead, Harry.
All right. So this bill would allow beach towns 3 entertainment districts. So this is Taxman Elliott's bill. Originally, it was designed to allow Orange Beach to have an additional entertainment district. And understand what an entertainment district is. It's an area where the open container law is suspended. You can go into a restaurant, you can get a beer. You can walk next door to a bar with that same beer in your hand. You can walk around the hangout or whatever. But for some reason, you can't drink a damn beer on the beach during spring break.
No, that's not in the zone.
Okay. But anyway, this is one of those where, depending on the size of the city, you can have like Birmingham has 5 entertainment districts. And of course, they shut one down in 2012 after there was a big throwdown street fight. But anyway, fare thee well, Elliott, and your ridiculous bill.
The tax man cometh.
The tax man cometh. All right, so let's talk about a politician that we seem to kind of like. The bridge, the lack of consensus, Paul. You want to talk about that one?
Oh, yeah, really. As most people know, this is Lanyap, Gabe Times, lack of consensus plan. Baldwin County Commissioner withdraws support for new bridge funding plan. As everybody knows, first plan was like $2.1 billion with about a $6 toll, and that was shot down by Ziegler, his group, and several of the social media sites.
Backstory Podcast.
Rip Report, Baldwin County Citizens for Accountability, all those people chipped in on that. Anyway, then all of a sudden we have a new plan that pops up at the Eastern Shore MPO for...
Now let's be real careful.
All right.
Whose brainchild was this new $1 billion bridge as opposed to a $2 billion bridge?
Well, that's what's kind of hard to put your finger on, but I think it came from the proposed from the Tea Party and Mr. Kevin Spriggs, who was totally against the toll. However, he is for the toll on the Beach Express, but I had somebody tell me the other night, I said, well, there's $1.4 billion, that's half the price. And they said, yeah, but you know what the problem is? And I said, what's that? And they said, well, Jack Burrell and Dane Haygood are involved. So there's
and they're involved through the Eastern Shore MPO,
correct,
Metropolitan Planning.
But this isn't this is not. I mean, this is just a proposal on a sketch pad, if you would. There's no engineering reports. There's none of that. Everybody jumped on the wagon. The only two people that didn't was because the language was not specific enough to say that there would be no toll. Is Billy Joe Underwood, the only person. Now, I know that the mayor of Fairhope has shared that same consensus with her, but that it just goes to show you get to the county commission, you get to some of these city councils, and they're not really paying attention to what's going on. You got one or two people pushing the project. I mean, it's got to be done and everything, but you can't just come up with this idea, okay, well, we can do it for half and we can do it this way. Not going to work. That ain't going to fly. So I'm glad that Commissioner Billy Joe Underwood stood up to that thing, and and she wants to see the language guaranteed no tolls, but I'm just suspicious of the individuals that are involved. I don't think that this is going to fly anywhere, to tell you the truth.
Just an update. The McSharry criminal case still hasn't happened. And
that's going on 18 months for a simple assault.
And Raines, you should be getting a T-shirt in the mail. We had one made for you. Join the conspiracy. Prosecute violent offenders. Protect the First Amendment.
Yep.
I think that could go a long way. All right, so Paul,
I'm looking for it.
What you got next? What looming change?
Oh,
what do you want to talk about?
Well, the monuments bill was, I think this is Kyle Whitmire, monuments rewrite sails through the committee. And while that monument bill sailed through, an Open Records Act died or is pretty much dead on Mr. Ward, Cam Ward was involved with. But I heard something interesting last night about the open records thing, was that all of the city clerks in the state of Alabama were opposed to this bill. Not that it would increase transparency, but they said that it had 2 or 3 more layers that you had to go through to even have a FOIA request honored. So, I mean, if I can go directly to the city council and to the city clerk, and trust me, I do a lot of records requests, I'd much rather do that. But seems to be a lot of criticism about that one particular bill. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere, so we'll just see. Got a motion to dismiss. That's Orange Beach. This is by John Mullen. Orange Beach seeks relief from 2 property cases. One of those property cases is the impact fee and how the fees are being used. That was Destin and Kim Williams that filed the first claim, and they felt like they were being overcharged by the impact fees, and the city has got a motion to dismiss. And then the other case, it's the Turquoise case, where Orange Beach asked Larry Wireman to give up land and cash to secure the zoning to build a opulent towers. According to the initial filing, the city has not abided by the deed requirement on use of the parcels or spending of the cash he was required to pay. Those parcels are still vacant. The suit was filed on January 4th in federal Southern District Court, seeks to retake the 2 parcels of property, one on the beach and one on Cotton Bayou, as well as $400,000 that he paid the city to collect it in development fees. Orange Beach moved for dismissal on February 10th in that case, but Clark Pennington has yet to file its motion in response. According to court records, we'll stay up on that. I'm kind of curious what's going to happen on both of those cases.
It is week 8 of 60 days in the A&E series that's in the Etowah County Jail. On another issue, the victim of the house party shooting back in December, Dominic Marshall, still no arrest in that case. You know, we've been keeping up with that.
Right.
The house party where there were 300 people. I want to double back real quick and talk about the monuments bill. Reigns, there are several Confederate monuments in public places in Birmingham. One of them in particular is in Lynn Park, and majority African American city. And so they found it offensive, so they went out there and built a wooden box out of 8-foot sheets of plywood and concealed it. So this new monument, and of course, you know, you've been to New Orleans, all that stuff's gone. And if they could, they'd take Jackson out of Jackson Square because he was an Indian killer, and many other deplorable things that that seen through the kaleidoscope of our current ethics he would be excluded from the conversation from the Republican and Democratic parties. Do you agree? I think you would. You know, when you look at people through that perspective. So, here's what I'm, and you guys can't see this, Paul. You can see it on the screen over here. Behind us is what I consider to be a beautiful piece of art. It's the Confederate Memorial in Montgomery, and you can tell it was raining that day. It really doesn't look this gray or stained or patinaed, however you want to say it. But even if we took all the words off of this thing, it is a beautiful piece of art. Do you agree? I mean, I think it's public art, whatever it stands for. There's also a life-size marble statue of our former Attorney General who was shot dead, and Attorney General Patterson, who was murdered over vice in Phoenix City in the 1950s. The father of gynecology was a doctor from Alabama. You know, why would we take any of these monuments down? If we want to add to them, I just don't understand it. It's public art. I understand it's offensive to some people, but we have got to come to terms with the fact that we do have a past, and if we whitewash it, we don't do ourselves any favors instead of addressing the issues at hand.
Well, I can see it as art, but you gotta, some people find it offensive. Now this bill would impose a $5,000 fine every day a local government didn't return a monument to its original condition, a punishment to make a city like Birmingham hurt until it surrenders.
All right, so let's take the Confederate Memorial down.
Okay.
And let's put up our congressional candidates.
Well, you want to get in that first?
Heck yeah. Okay. Super Tuesday.
How about this?
Oh, hell, I don't care. Oh, man. Yes. Yeah, let's back up.
Yeah, let's back up.
Because I have a good bit of information on that. You tell what you know, and I'll follow up.
All right, this is, again, a Lanyap article. It's been in the news, too. Suspicious circumstances. Water Board sends election complaint to the DA's office. This is Baldwin County by John Mullen. This was the Orange Beach Authority. Water Board Authority had a race, and Jack Robinson was one of the three candidates. A lot of you people might know him as Big Earl from Floribama. If you missed that show, you got to go see it sometime.
So Raines, he wrote a book called P Word on a Pontoon Boat. Have you ever read it?
It's a song.
Oh, I know of it.
It's a song, and not a book.
It's a song, yeah.
It's a song, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 2,200 ballots were cast, and most ever for a water board election ever. About 600 were considered tainted or of a different printing than the others. So 1,600 or so. He gave the board the option of throwing out the 600 or counting the remaining votes or sending the whole lot to the DA to investigate and hold a new election. Now, Robinson at first wanted to seek a spot on the Orange Beach City Council, but a friend of his asked him not to run. He set his eyes then on the water board seat after hearing the authorities' forgiveness policy. Now, this is something that involves everybody as a consumer issue. It's a forgiveness policy for undetected water leaks at your house. So let's say you got your house up for sale, the toilet's running, the real estate agents aren't paying attention, and you get a $1,000 bill. So, you know, the leak ran it up to $1,000. Well, if you are in Silver Hill, the forgiveness policy would mean that for that $1,000 bill, which was a mistake, you'd pay about $360. In Orange Beach, you get hit for $800. And Robinson said if they would just fix 2 or 3 things, he wouldn't even run. He pays about $200 a month, and he just wants Orange Beach to be competitive with other towns. And I'm glad somebody like him stepping up and raising hell. That's what it takes.
All right, so there are a few things wrong about what you said.
Okay.
In the, you know, I called and talked to the attorney for the board, so I got a little bit more straight skinny.
Well, if I was wrong, I was reading it.
Well, I know, and it's just clarifications that you need. Okay, so number one, it is the board members in Orange Beach are appointed by the county commission. They decided years ago to hold their own little ad hoc elections, and those election results are then sent to the county commission, who use and the county commission has acquiesced to this little ad hoc election they have, and they always just appoint whoever wins the election. Mm-hmm. So it's not really an election, okay? Which brings up which is the quagmire that their attorney was in. It was so they went to a print shop and they had them print not only the ballot but the envelopes. So whoever's name the meter is in, they would send that person a letter. In that letter, it would include instructions on how to fill it out, the ballot, and the envelope. They were all printed on by a professional printer, and these envelopes and ballots are easily identifiable by the medium that it's printed on, okay? Mm-hmm. So when they go to look at the ballots, it's obvious that a whole lot of them are not like kind. And so that's where the crux comes in. So he turned it over to the DA's office. Now, here's what I'm saying. They were trying to affect an election, and while it may not be an elections law crime, it was certainly fraud because this is a position that is a paid position. You get that?
Right.
Okay. So that's what's going on down there, and I think they've handled it as well as they could. But the real question is who won the damn election because of the stuffed ballots? I think they need to open the damn things up and take a look.
Well, we are known in Alabama for some funky election practices, I'll tell you that, especially Baldwin County.
All right, so give me the congressional candidates, please, sir.
All right, now, Lanyap's got a fantastic issue, you know, like I said, the road to Super Tuesday, so they're covering many different races. Let's go over a couple of others first before we come back to the congressional. In the high court, we got Philip Hackle, Matt Friday, and Jill Gannis running in that race. And let's see, in the Supreme Court, Alabama Criminal Appeals, Melvin Hastings, Beth Kellum, Will Smith, Cam Ward, Mary Wyndham. I kind of like Cam Ward on that one.
So did you know Mary Wyndham is a Bay Minette girl?
Did not.
Her mother was our tax assessor here in Baldwin County, and she married Steve Wyndham, who famously whizzed in a jug. He was the president of the Senate.
Right,
and
right.
So, during a filibuster, so he wouldn't have to leave the podium, someone brought him
I remember that. I remember that. And Cam Ward was named Autism National Legislator, and I'm sure that Autism Award is for his work on marijuana, on medical marijuana. Then we got the 3 top challengers for the Senate, which is going to be Bradley Byrne, and you got Roy Moore running, Jeff Sessions, Tommy Tuberville, and I'm going to predict that Tommy Tuberville and Jeff Sessions will move into the runoff. that Roy Moore will ride off on his horse Sassy not to be seen again. And
that'd be too damn much to ask for.
And I think Bradley Burns is going to go back into practice, private practice, but that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we'll see. Now, the one race that I find.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Senate race again.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Sessions is a definite no for me. Why in the hell would we elect somebody in their 70s to do anything? Bradley's kind of pushing that point, you know. And I'm not just being an ageist or whatever, but yeah, we need some new ideas. We need some fresh ideas. We certainly don't need somebody that was in the job for 25 years and did a half-assed job, quite frankly.
Right. Well,
as far as I'm concerned.
Well, my projection's based on just electability and knowing the people of Alabama. They seem to do the same thing over and over again, even if it's wrong. So that's why I'm predicting that it may go that way.
Right. But, you know, there's still a lot of people around here who like an old family name like Byrne.
Yeah,
they've been in this county for a couple hundred years.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
as opposed to Tommy Tuberville, where the hell's he from? Arkansas, coached in Mississippi. He's got a real pulse on Alabama.
One of the critical things they're saying is that his residence is actually Florida. But
hell, son! No need to worry about that. It's Alabama.
So anyway, but the race I find most interesting is the seat Bradley's vacating, the 1st Congressional District. You got 5 Republicans, 3 Democrats running for that seat, and that's the one that I think has the most interesting statistics. It started out with, for instance, Jerry Carl had 12% in July of last year, and Bill Hightower, the Catalyst candidate, had 34%. And by February, Mr. Carl had upset that by 29% to 21%. I guess it's getting out that Hightower's the Catalyst candidate. So,
hey, Paul.
Yeah.
Let me see your little Bill Hightower flyer.
Oh, yeah. Well, we can bring that up.
So, and this is what I want everybody to see. What on this flyer tells you anything about his policy position on anything, except for maybe it tells me that he's probably pro-life, anti-abortion, but it's a dude reading the Bible. In a Paul Rip sleeveless vest.
Well, it's a dumbed down campaign. You're running on nothing but your Christian faith. What about all of the problems that we got? That's what gets me, But the Catalyst people run campaigns that way, get off the facts and try to hope that they're on your sleeves, that they are a good Christian. The one thing I can tell you in Alabama, people, is we do not have a Jesus problem. Okay, we don't have a Jesus problem. But the last race in 2018, there was now the 1st Congressional District covers Escambia, Monroe, Baldwin, Mobile, and part of Clark. So it's a pretty large area. We had a total of 242,000 votes last time, 89,000 being Democrat, 153,000 being Republican. And I'm sorry, I cannot tell you the Baldwin County number out of that, but I would think it'd be 25,000. So it's going to be interesting to look at the facts and figures as to how this race comes out. On the Democratic side, Kiana Gardner is the one that I think is running a little bit ahead of everybody. Garner is a scientist and a former community college professor with a PhD in cellular biology.
We don't want them none of them smart women up there in the state house, man. Come on.
You dang right. Keep them out of Montgomery.
Right, and Democrats also. James Everhart is a Mobile native and retired.
I mean, her mama didn't teach her how to cook. What the hell she need to go get an advanced degree like that for?
Mr. Everhart's retired U.S. Marine, Semper Fi. And Rick Collins of Mobile, who's a real estate broker. Those are the three running on the Democratic side.
Well, those people should have saved their damn money.
Well, now,
there ain't no way
here's
the
what
Democrats going to win the first Alabama congressional
Well, maybe,
district.
but this is what Ms. Gardner says. If we keep allowing the message to persist that the district is so hopelessly red that the Democrat doesn't stand a chance, we're not giving people much of a reason to step out and go vote, whether or not we win. And I do intend to win. We're showing that Republicans don't get to own this seat. It belongs to the district, and there are people here who are willing to put up a fight for it. So you have to respect that, even at overwhelming odds, that where she's going with it. But I really like John Castanori. I always get John's last name.
So I want to say one thing about Democrats before you get off that subject.
All right.
When the Democratic Party, led by Bill Clinton, abandoned the American worker, Mobile was done, or this area was done voting for Democrats.
Well, it may come back. You can't tell. John Castellani is also running in that position now. John Castellani and Wes Lambert are two of the least known coming in. Chris Pringle's also running for that seat. So you got four choices other than the Catalyst candidate. So please try to stay away from Hightower if you can. Castellani said that I'm not going to base my campaign on attacking socialists or gun grabbers because we live in Alabama. Socialism isn't coming here. Nobody is going to take away our guns. I like John.
I do too.
I think one of the criticisms of him that I heard after a couple of forums was that he's too honest. So I think he can live with that reputation.
Yeah, you honest son of a bitch. We're tired of hearing all that foolishness.
Right. We don't want to hear anything out like, what would be the right thing to do. But anyway, that's the race to look at.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, as far as my preferences, Carl or Castellani.
Yeah.
One of those two guys.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how John and Wes do because, and Pringle too. This is a five-way race.
Have you seen that damn wall commercial? He's literally sitting there with a trowel in his hand, building a block wall in his ad.
Who's that now?
Pringle.
Oh,
he's got some, I don't know who's running his campaign. Those are the cheesiest damn ads. I was like, kid.
What's going to be interesting to see how the 5 votes split up. And then the other thing to watch is the 2 that are in the runoff. It's going to be interesting to see how the 3 endorse who they endorse of the 2 that are running off. So you can be sure next week we'll be going all over that. One other thing, does
anybody want the people that are going to vote for Roy Moore to give them their votes?
I don't know. Roy's leaving on the horse. I'm telling you, Sassy. You can't vote for somebody when the horse doesn't like you. I mean, his own horse doesn't like him. Anyway, there's also an amendment that we're going to be voting on for the abolishment of the state auditor.
All right, so let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah,
it's not going to get rid of our current auditor. The position would sunset when he leaves office.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand that?
Well, yeah, I did.
And do you also understand that he can't run for that office again anyway?
Well, that's pretty much doomed the office, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll get somebody in there that's interested in being the state auditor and not interjecting themselves into every damn little political squabble in the state of Alabama.
Well,
now I do appreciate him coming down here and getting involved in this bridge thing.
Right.
But I can guarantee you the Calhoun County Commission doesn't appreciate it when he shows up to bitch about a road that is somebody that he knows lives on or whatever. Pick a topic.
Right.
Pick a topic outside of the scope of the state auditor's job. and you will find our state auditor involved.
He does kind of go beyond the bounds of his office, that's for sure.
And so what I'm saying is it has nothing to do with him in particular. It's an archaic position. The examiners of public accounts keep up with all the money and track the inventory. ADECA tracks the non-law enforcement inventory, including cars and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I'm well familiar with the system that the state of Alabama has, and we don't necessarily need an auditor.
Okay, well then what about the other one, which is Amendment 1, and that is the election of a school board or the appointment of a school board? There's a good argument.
I've already weighed in on that.
Mm-hmm.
We do not want the governor to have the ability to hire and fire the entirety of the school board based on one election. We want those school board members to be elected people, and I understand that there's some pros and cons, but it's still a damn democracy until the sheriffs get their way.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
All right. So I have a video that I want to play, and it's about the I really don't much care, except I'm sure that some people out there do. In the presidential race, of course, we're going to have, unless the coronavirus turns out to be a real, and they really screw it up, I think the Republican nominee is going to be President Trump. And Super Tuesday is a big day for the Democrats.
Big day.
And it's my understanding that Biden must win South Carolina if he intends to continue.
And big. He's got to win it by
absolutely
double digits.
So let's watch this little video. When we come back, I want to hear from you, Raines. I know you keep your ear to the ground on the Democrats. Go for it.
I want to get your take on the 2 hours of television you witnessed tonight.
The first thing is, I watched the debate, and they watch it. I'm watching this debate through the lens of a South Carolina Democrat. If I do that, Joe Biden won that debate. He was relevant. He kept coming back to his time with Obama, who was very popular among South Carolina Democrats. He was up against the wall. He's got to win Saturday, and I thought he had the kind of best debate. I was really surprised that the coronavirus thing didn't come up until Bloomberg brought it up at an hour 7, and in the question, we had more discussion Israeli-Palestinian conflict than we had. This is, you talk about a kitchen table issue.
It's a clear and present danger.
People have lost 5% of the thing. They're scared to death about it. And the Trump administration has no idea of what they're doing. And I just thought this was a chance to really be more relevant about what people are thinking and what people are talking about in this race. Bernie Sanders, this is the first time he's really gotten roughed up a little bit, and he didn't like it. I think that sort of, he looked like he had a cold. It was just something, he wasn't terrible. Don't get me wrong, I'm not, calm down, Bertie Rose. But he was just a little off. He just wasn't quite himself, and they came at him a couple of ways.
And he got booed for the first time in a forum like this.
Yeah.
That counts, that hurts.
And Mayor Pete, he did well. I mean, I don't know if he gets lost in the background. And I think Bloomberg, I was surprised. He was better than I thought he could be. He wasn't like John F. Kennedy, but he was better than I thought he'd be.
And what about Warren? What about Klobuchar?
Warren gives you the impression that she'd rather beat Bloomberg than win herself. Okay? I mean, and she is really a talented person, but she did probably need a little more finesse. She really hit Bloomberg hard on the question of non-disclosures. She kept going back to that, and I don't think she did that well. I mean, Klobuchar and Steyer both did very well. The question is anybody going to remember it?
So, Raines, that was James Carville.
Mm-hmm.
And
the
Raging Cajun. So let me think. Let me go back to this. So Carville was the campaign manager for Clinton, 92.
Bill Clinton,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Smart guy. He claims that Biden won the last debate, and that if Biden doesn't win South Carolina big, he's done, and it's going to be Bernie Trump. November.
Well, it's I would agree to a certain degree. I can say that if Biden doesn't win the South Carolina primary, he's finished. He'll stay in as an also ran for another couple of weeks, and then or another couple of days, and then he'll bow out. As far as who win the debate, I mean that's like that last debate was just good God, what a dumpster fire that was.
Screaming match.
Saying that anybody won that is just, it's like, you won a gold medal at the Special Olympics.
Right.
Congratulations.
I don't think I'd want to be the winner.
Yeah, it's like a terrible joke. Somebody once told me the only thing better than winning a gold medal at the Special Olympics is not being handicapped. But it's and that's
I think I said that, and I don't think I said it like that.
Well, it's right now the Democratic Party is in such a incredibly bad shape that they are basically, and I like Bernie Sanders. I really support Medicare for all. I really, really do. And I think it should be a basic human right that you have access to health care in this country. And I can't really get my head around why anybody would oppose it.
We're the only country in the Western Hemisphere without it.
Yeah, we're the only country in the first world without it.
Right.
And it's one of those things. I won't sit there and stump for Sanders, but I will say this. A lot of people gonna hate it, but a lot of people hate most of what I say. Sanders is just the blue Trump at this point.
All right, that's what I want to talk to you about. I want to jump in on this.
Oh boy, here we go.
Do you ever? So everyone's familiar with Cambridge University and Oxford University in England, correct?
Right.
So are you familiar with the Oxford Union, which is like a public forum for debate?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Oxford Union will have certain people, and they will hold debate forums. Sometimes students are involved. Sometimes people are asked to come participate in debates. Recently, they had a question and answer with Conan O'Brien is what got it on my radar. But Anthony Scaramucci, do you remember the Mooch?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Mooch.
He was so Harvard Law. He goes to work for, I don't know, one of the big trading firms on Wall Street, creates his own, I think he was on Fox and Friends, and when Trump was running, he's like, ain't nobody going to vote for that guy. And then he becomes the communications director. So, Trump fired him after 10 days or supposedly the new chief of staff did. I think it was 11 days, actually. No, let's not discount the guy. But,
that's what 11 days is considered a mooch as a
mooch.
Form
there
of
you
measurement.
Go. So the mooch is on there, and he said one of the most intelligent things, when you hear something that you know is true, but you just didn't put it all together for yourself, that was his position. The same people, Trump and Bernie supporters have the same problem or the same perspective. They're just on different ends of the political spectrum. So they
Correct.
are.
I would agree with that.
They are the people like you and I, Raines. I don't know. My dad. So when my parents were in their early 30s, they were buying a second home. What happened to us in our middle 30s? We got a damn war in the Great Recession of 2008. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of people who feel like where their parents had an opportunity to go to junior college and then to Auburn and then go work somewhere and make a decent living and all that, those days are gone. The American dream for a lot of people is unattainable, and those are the people that voted for Trump, the ones who were tired of the lies and the BS out of the Republican Party and out of the Democratic Party, and that's the same people that Bernie's pulling from. The disenfranchised is how I'll say it.
Yep. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. Tuesday's going to be huge. Those that want to follow it, remember, you can.
But you should go watch the Oxford Union thing because it really had me liking the Mooch. I'm like, I can't believe.
I ain't gonna watch anything Anthony Scaramucci on. That's bull
I'm
crap.
telling you,
I'm not
it was
gonna
pretty
watch.
good.
What an incredibly intelligent panel to talk politics. Conan O'Brien and Anthony Scaramucci. That's fantastic. Did they have Bubba the Love Sponge and Hulk Hogan on there as well?
Well, listen, dickhead. Both those guys graduated from Harvard. Okay, I'm just saying they're brilliant people. They just don't come across as brilliant.
I get that all the time.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I graduated from Auburn. Okay. Let's see here. What else we got?
We got the looming change. Business interests voicing opposition to Baldwin County condo ruling by Gabe Times Lanyap.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you something, folks. If there's one thing that you can be sure of is with condo, if you ever saw the, what was the show I'm trying to think about? Steinfeld had a series and they called it, I think, Condoism. And condoism is like if you live in a condo, there's an expert in a condo, really, on every single thing. Anyway, this is about condo rules and everything. The Alabama Attorney General office is aligning itself with statewide business interests, go figure, who believe a Baldwin County judge's ruling last year in a case about condominium declarations amounts to overkill. That's one way the Associated Builders and Contractors of Alabama described Circuit Judge Clark Stankowski's ruling against Brett Robinson, a vacation management and property development company in Gulf Shores. They also described him as...
So you know all those Phoenix condos? There's like 14 of them now, Raines?
Yeah.
That's Brett Robinson.
Right.
All those.
They described it as draconian, or that L word, liberal. Stankowski stripped Brett Robinson of the declared ownership of 4 commercial units in the Phoenix on the Bay 2 condominium 104 unit complex. If the result stands, no condo unit, it's alleged that if the result stands, no condo unit in the state can be confident that the rights he holds today will be the rights that he holds tomorrow. For a litigious neighbor could go to court against the condo developer and have the rights of every unit owner in the condo altered, wrote Marshall. This is a kind of a complex article, so, you know, I'm paraphrasing parts of it. I suggest that you read the whole thing, but if you have a condo and there's sure a lot of you, this could affect you. And
I suggest that if you own a condo in the state of Alabama, you should call your buddy who's a lawyer and get him to explain to you exactly how this is going to affect you.
Correct.
Or if it will.
Correct.
It may not affect you, but I think it's going to affect everybody.
Correct. So you about to wrap up here?
Not just yet.
Okay. We got something important to finish up with.
Winning for Alabama. Right now, the paper lottery bill that the Porch Creek Indians are pushing has 60 co-sponsors in the House. It has enough co-sponsors to pass the House on an initial vote. Of course, the governor is trying to delay this. She has appointed a gaming committee. Is that right?
Right.
And for some reason, the sheriff of Mobile County is on it. Did you know that? Have you seen the list?
No.
All right, we'll get it up next time. I don't know if she can put this off. I mean, I guess she could veto it. The other thing I want to know is why is Mike Hubbard not still in jail? Anybody know?
Nope.
Because all of his buddies are on the court.
Well, they're trying to change all the ethics rules, and maybe if they get all the rest ethics rules changed, then they could go back and say, well, Mike doesn't need to go to jail because now what was illegal we made legal. And the Ethics Commission, well, you can't depend on them for anything. And if they are the agency where you have to file a complaint, then I suggest that you do not waste the paper.
Right.
All right.
Amtrak service. Anybody know when it's coming? They appropriated the money. We still don't have a timeline. Maybe Wiley Blankenship's sitting around kicking paper footballs at a trash can. We can call him.
I know Mississippi, Louisiana are really thankful that it is going through, and Alabama should too. It will increase tourism.
So, Paul, you remember the NBU North Baldwin Utility Board meeting we went to the other day where we were treated so warm and lovingly?
Sometimes people just don't like me.
Well, so I requested that, and I just said whatever it cost. I want the actual recording of the meetings that they've had since September. And I requested that in writing. I got a letter from the board attorney, R. Scott Lewis. He claims that NBU does not record their meetings.
Wasn't there a recording?
There was a damn record. I'm glad you picked it. I was going to ask you.
There was a recorder on the table, wasn't
there? Was a recorder on the table that looked more expensive than all this equipment that me and Paul have right here.
It probably was taking our picture at the same time too.
Probably was. So they're claiming that's not it. So one more thing. And Paul, I'll let you have your moment.
Okay.
With all of these things that we've been talking about, I do want to predicate this. With all the problems that we have, the Alabama legislature has passed a bill that says they declared what, Paul?
They have declared pornography as a public health crisis in Alabama. This is by Brandon Mosley, filed on the
Is it because
28th.
People are getting carpal tunnel syndrome?
It makes me wonder what they're thinking about in Montgomery for sure. On Thursday, the Alabama House of Representatives passed a resolution declaring that pornography is a public health crisis in Alabama. This was carried by State Representative Danny Garrett out of Trussville. Garrett warned that pornography leads to sex trafficking, violence against women, and other crimes.
Hey, Raines, you know how it's always the gay? It's always the gay guy that's always so anti-homosexual. What do you want to bet this guy's got the finest collection of pornography in the world on his computer?
Well, no, he said that when he
Very likely.
Yeah, he said when he was young, it was Playboy and other magazines, and now it's online and activities seeking out young people to look at it. However, State Representative Laurel Hill, Democrat from Huntsville, opposed the resolution, saying that it was a total waste of time and questioning if it really constitutes a public health crisis. Hall argued that Alabama has a public health crisis in
coronavirus,
and that many lack access to health care. Friday, the two houses held a joint session honoring the Black History Month and the many contributions that black people have contributed to the state of Alabama. Hall thought, as I do, that it was inappropriate that the resolution on pornography was the focus of the House on the same day that the Black History program was being introduced and discussed. So that sounds like Alabama to me.
So I will say this about the baby boomer perspective on pornography. So I will agree that there's a big difference in the attitude towards women between your run-of-the-mill pornography site and what we all enjoyed in the wonderful publication put out by Playboy magazine, right?
Okay.
So, and what I'll say about it is, if you're learning about sex from online pornography, you're not learning anything. Because especially not about how a woman wants to be treated, or I don't know if you've watched any of that stuff, but it's
well, this is it was supported by the Alabama Eagle Forum, and I'd be real interested to. I'm gonna be looking that up when I get back to the house as to who they are. But I think the thing that bugs me is that look at the problems that we have. And this is the issue. This is what they're taking time up legislatively to do. It's nothing short of embarrassing, really.
Stand up there.
No comment, Raines.
Wave the good. Stand up there and wave the good book, and everybody with an IQ below 60 is going to vote for you, whether they like you or not.
I tell you what, Raines. My dad had the first Alabama Consumer Association in Alabama. He started it in, I think, 76, somewhere around there. When I came back from Vietnam, I used to hang with him, and he said, "Now I'm going to tell you one thing." He said, "When they tell you that you're a Christian and they want to be your friend," he said, "run like hell." So that's something that I found to be true. And it just disgusts me when I see these politicians running on the basis of Christianity alone over and over again. That's all that they say. We don't have a God problem. We have a lot of other problems, but we don't have a God problem in Alabama. So.
Now, Lyndon Johnson put it the best. He said, all you've got to do is impress. I use this quote all the time. I can't believe I don't have it committed better. But he said, all you've got to do is impress the top 10% of your most intelligent and the lower 20% of the least intelligent, and you'll never have to run for re-election.
Right. That's true.
And that's the truth.
That's
the absolute truth.
All right, so Raines, we're gonna play a video, and I want you to tell us what you know about it. So go ahead and start running it, and we're gonna talk over it.
In Houston,
Well, you have to tell me what it is,
expected
'cause I
flooding
can't
on
see
a
it.
bright
Well,
sunny day, but a highway
there was a big
quickly
water leak. There was a
underwater when massive
flood in
pipe burst.
Houston.
Faucets
Oh,
went
you know
dry in a
about
big
that.
part of the city.
So tell us
And
about it.
Janet
What
Sherman
happened? It was an
reports there were some
aquifer that
dramatic water
burst, or
rescues.
some kind of.
They had a one of the main
massive water main break left
and it
parts
just
of
happened to
Houston looking
break
like
in
it
an
did in the
area that's in the
aftermath of Hurricane
bowl of
Harvey.
Houston.
The
Aqueduct.
flooding
It's a
caused a major
96-inch
freeway that
main.
circles the city.
All right, that's
Cars and
big enough
trucks
for me to
suddenly
drive my
submerged.
car through, and
Drivers
it's big.
climbing
It
atop
supplies
their
most of the
vehicles,
water
waiting
to
for
Houston.
rescue.
And
The pipe that broke
Bud,
apart
I'm
while
here to tell
undergoing
you, it
repairs
flooded
was 8
quick.
feet wide.
And that area that it broke in is just
8% of the
unfortunate.
drinking
That
water
area of the
to the
610
nation's
loop
fourth-largest
is
city.
always susceptible to flooding. They've got rain gauges on the sides of the road, so where you can see where the water is.
Suddenly
And
across Houston, homes,
not rain
businesses,
gauges,
and
but
the sprawling Texas
a meter that tells you how deep the water is, because it rains there and it floods, and it flooded out cars. There were people getting high water rescued because of a water main break.
Yeah, we see
and they
it.
showed it
Blue
shooting up.
skies, right?
Yeah, not a drop of rain, and it flooded the hell out of 610, and people lost cars, and semis lost loads, and people had to get picked up by helicopters and boats and everything else, and it was a real mess. And
So what's the perspective? I mean, is it open again? I mean, they got the water out, and they cleaned all the mud. I mean, it had to carry sediment and all kinds of stuff with it, right?
Well, they put about 4.5 million people under a boil water notice for the next 4 days. And, you should boil your water. Up here, we weren't really affected by it. I mean, I'm about 27 miles from that leak and still within the city limits of Houston, to give you an idea how big it is. We were the only community not affected by the boil water notice. Hell, there's some schools in my son's school district just on the south side of where I live that are closed today because of that water main leak.
Wow.
So it was a big, fat, hairy deal, and I'm glad they fixed it. I hope they use all the water out of Lake Conroe, because that's a whole other issue I've been fighting. And I hope Houston calls the note on that water in Lake Conroe and drops it to where you can't even get a boat in the water up there for those sons of... Anyway, I could talk for 2 hours on that alone.
All right. So one thing I want you to research for next time, Raines, is the procedure of... Have you ever heard of image scraping? Do you know what image scraping is?
No.
Something. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay, so here's what happens. There's a developer down in Florida who figured out how to write an algorithm, and it goes out there and it goes to your Facebook page or to your LinkedIn or to your Twitter, and I guess it's grabbing profile pictures or my photos, anything that where you're tagged specifically. So they're going in there and scraping your photos, and typically facial recognition uses a photograph like Paul and I are looking at the camera. They measure the distance from your mouth, the width between your eyes, that kind of thing.
Right, the dimensions.
That's right, the dimensions. So what scraping's doing is they're going and getting hundreds of images. They can identify you from your profile, the shape of your ear, all kinds of crazy stuff. They have taken all that information and they have it in a database. Of course, it's only available to law enforcement, Raines, but when you load the software, it will in real time take the city's closed circuit. What am I trying to say? Surveillance camera data incoming, and in real time will tell you who everybody is in the picture if they've ever posted a picture on Facebook or whatever. Wow. So Facebook, YouTube, Google, all these other people have said, hey, man, you can't do this. This violates our terms of service. And they say, no problem. We got all the pictures we need.
Uh-huh. Yep. Well, let me give a shout out to everybody last but not least, Super Tuesday coming up. Be sure you vote. Take a little bit of time out. It doesn't take long. Just don't vote for any catalyst candidates.
Well, these are a couple of high-stepping turkeys, and you know what to say about a high stepper. No step too high for a high stepper.
That's right, Governor. No step too high for a high stepper. So, do we have an outro? Did we get all our videos in? I think we did. I'm about ready to wrap this thing up, boys. Y'all got anything else y'all want to tell me about the weekend? We got Super Tuesday coming up next week. What else, Paul?
That's it. Looks like a pretty weekend.
And Paul's not going to Vietnam.
Nope. I had to cancel that trip for fear of not being allowed back.
So Raines, you want to hear the funniest damn thing? So I have always had in the back of my mind the old Alamo concept, you know? Where am I going to go when the shit hits the fan? So guess where I was going to go? To my river house. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
It's about that far from water getting in my camp. It is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Welcome to Houston, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been in Houston. I've seen Houston flood twice.
So anyway, I hope everybody in North Baldwin and along the causeway, folks over on the Mobile River, and anywhere else that's affected by this flooding up at Claiborne, Clark County, be careful. That water can sweep you away in a second, and it's not following the river anymore. The whole damn delta is one big river headed due south.
You can't see the road, don't drive on it.
Heck no, especially don't drive on it. I was thinking more about
Turn
being
around,
in your
don't
boat.
Drown. We live by that here in Houston. Turn around, don't drown.
And everybody, go get you a bandana. We'll figure out some way to make it where the pathogens can't get into it. I'm thinking about looking on Lifehack or something like that on YouTube. If I come up with something innovative, I'll share it with you.
Just don't be wearing the bandana if you're stopped by the police. Suggestion.
That's probably a good idea. Now that they know that you have a concealed weapons permit, they're going to walk up to you with their holster unsnapped or their gun in their hand, or maybe just for their own safety, they're going to pull their AR out and get over the PA and say, Mr. Steele, please get out of your car, get on your knees, put your hands above your head.
Take that bandana off.
Take that bandana off, most importantly. All right, guys. Well, we will see you next time. Appreciate you participating, Raines. I know it's always a pain in the butt for you, but
share the podcast with your friends.
Share, like, subscribe. We're on everything now. We have we've infected the airwaves or the internet as many ways as we can. So we will see y'all next time.
Probably all one or two of the people in the Kingwood area of Texas that's listening to this podcast, please make sure to go vote for Beth Guide for precinct chair. Precinct 357 on Tuesday in the Republican primary. Russian Interference LLC has a vested interest in that candidate, and we would appreciate your support.
And if you decide to vote for Jeff Sessions, please only watch Paul's side of the screen from now on. Do not watch my side.
Exactly.
And I'll talk to y'all later.
Bye.
All righty.